I'm Laura Rankhorn.
And I am Kim Crumbley, and together we are Counselor Accents, two school counselors who are in the trenches with you.
We know what you're going through because we're living it every single day. And boy, are we living it every single day, Kim. I think you recently hit stress level midnight and it came out in a very unique way. I think you need to tell about the trenches that you've been living in.
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is up there with well, let's just think about um when you have one of those days where all the stars line up and everything that can go wrong goes wrong. And so that was the day that I was having. It was supposed to be Grinch Day at school, and I love a good dress up day. You know that I am going to go all out on dress up day.
Right?
And so I had ordered from Amazon a Grinch dress. We need to post this picture of me in the dress. I will send a picture. And it was an Audra Hepburn style Grinch dress.
Which you can absolutely rock because, you know, you just,
I,
I'm
I know.
sure
Just say it.
you would look
Just
adorable in that.
it's this body. I can't help it.
You can't
I
help that
cannot help it.
teenage
It's just
body.
like a teenage body. And so anyway, it's got the fur around I mean, it's just adorable. So I have the Grinch hair going and the Grinch dress going. But my problem was, I'm not a stickler for attention.
Okay.
So I
I
had
know
the
that
dress
about you.
on backwards. I put the dress on backwards.
Let's let that sink in for just a minute. Now, this is
Just let
not
it
where the
sink
story
in.
ends. This is not where the story ends.
No,
Um,
no.
but
That's a common practice.
let's
Backwards
let
clothes for
part
clothing
A
for
of
me.
this story just sink in. Adorable
Mhm.
dress on
On
backwards.
backwards.
And I
Yes.
have so many questions about this. Like, at any point, did you think, gosh, these buttons are cumbersome? Gosh, this
It
zipper,
was a zipper. I zipped it up the front, and then
which
I
is not usual.
realized no, and in fact, my poor little principal, if he were here, he would tell you what happened, and we may cut this part out, but I he said your dress is on backwards. And I said, "Oh my goodness, here's the zipper." And I just barely pulled the zipper down to see, and
That's not the story
out
I heard. That's
it
not the
out
story I heard.
popped out popped the puppies. Children were screaming, trying to get out of
Your
the
principal was
way.
screaming. Your principal
He
was
was because he's old. I have shoes older than he is, and he was like, "Ugh." So anyway, it gets worse. So I go into my office because I get a call from the assistant superintendent. So I go into the office, did not have time to change said dress. And he said, Kim, is there any way that transcripts did not get sent to where they needed to go or whatever? He's
Uh-oh.
just asking a question. He's just asking a
But
question.
still, that's a
And I'm
question
like,
that would strike
I'm
fear.
like, well, I'm like, you feel you automatically have this feeling that I have screwed up. And any high school counselor across the nation has felt that uh-oh feeling. But
Mhm.
now this is an uh-oh feeling on top of the backward dress. I'm dressed up with Grinch hair and I'm having this conversation. While this conversation is happening, my principal and another teacher come running into my room screaming, and they're saying out loud, your car has driven itself out into the parking lot of the school. So I hang up on, the assistant superintendent. I go running out of the building, backward dress, Grinch dress, and my car is no longer in its parking space.
It is.
It has, I did not turn, as it turns out, I had not completely turned it off.
And it was blocking the car.
I had not put it in park. That's what I had not done. I had not put it in park. And so the assistant superintendent had heard all of the screaming and he calls my principal back, who puts him on FaceTime.
So
So he's now watching me in the backwards Grinch dress running toward my car that has rolled out into the parking lot. At that same moment, our SRO officer comes around the building with his lights on and siren on. So other teachers are now piling out of the building. And so I walk, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I just walk up to the phone where they're FaceTiming the assistant superintendent. And I said, whatever you're accusing me of, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I did it. I've done it. I'm guilty. There's no way that I'm not getting out of this. No way.
And as
And
it turns
so,
out, well, go
yeah,
ahead.
no. And I was just going to say, how did you find out what had happened? Because it was the shot heard around the county.
So my principal had asked me to attend a principal's meeting in her stead that day. She was not able to go for whatever reason. So I went in her place and well, our
Yes.
assistant
Okay.
superintendent, he walks in with his phone and he's like, did you hear about what Kim did today? Did you hear about what Kim did? And he's showing this video to everybody of you in the backwards
Mm,
Grinch dress running after
mm.
your car. Now, as it turns out, I had gotten a little happy with the eyeliner that day. I had unintentionally given myself a Cindy Crawford mark on my lip.
I'm trying to
Unintentionally.
be sexy.
I was horrified when I got back in the car and realized that I had this uh, mark on my face that I had not meant to make. And I thought, really, I've got nothing. At least I'm not in a backwards
No.
Grinch dress with Grinch hair running after my car that has decided to go rogue and is blocking the car line.
And possibly going to be fired for some kind of malfeasance. Is it
Multiple.
malfeasance?
I
Is it
don't think
malfeasance?
so. I don't think so, but I think in this case it was a very big malfeasance. I think you you took a big malfeasance.
Well, let me just say this. I just thought to myself, Kim, this may be your lowest moment. This may be it right here. But I thought to myself, you know, my car backed on up by herself. I call her Ruby. Ruby backed up. She didn't hit a child. She didn't hit another car. She just did the nicest little backup. About half a mile down the road, she just stops. And it was a beautiful thing. No, nobody was injured. So I thought, you know what? No matter what, this is going to turn out good. Well, let me just say, it turns out that there was no harm, there was nothing wrong. That the issue was not anything on my end, and it was really nothing. So everything worked out fine, and my car had no dents. No, nor did anyone else have any dents. And you know what? Who doesn't wear a dress backwards from time to
From time to time.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, and what I said was, I said, Laura, does everybody know now? And she said, yes. It was passed around the video. Everything's been passed around to every school, every principal. And I said, well, is it laughing with me or laughing at me? And she said, oh, they laughing at you. There's nobody laughing with you.
Yeah,
It made me feel so bad. I mean, couldn't you have lied?
I could have. And perhaps
Well,
should
were you embarrassed? Were you embarrassed by being my best friend? Were you
no,
ashamed of
I
the
was
thing?
not embarrassed. I was worried that we had crossed to the point where I'm gonna have to be changing your diapers when we travel. That's what crossed. Because I'm like, is that where we call the end of this thing?
Is this I'm calling the time on this one right here. I'm plugging it. We're done. But in my defense on this, I've been doing this for years. I've been doing crazy. I have crazy stories, that. Like, I've had them for my whole life. So I can't just pin it to, I'm getting old and crazy. I've always been this way.
Well, and they're endearing. It's what people love about you.
Well, I don't know. It is what it is, but yes, it is. I will have to send you a picture so you can post it of
Yes.
the me running out with the car and the dress backwards. Now, my husband B12 does not know anything about this
And fortunately
because,
for us, he doesn't listen. So
and fortunately for me, he does not listen. This will be the one he listens. I'm going to tell you
that's how
that
it
right
goes.
now.
Yep.
And that's how it goes.
Well, I hope you guys
Okay.
listen because we have a great guest on today. We met Lisa
Yeah.
Pruitt back a few months ago, and she told us about a project that she has going on that it was like the first time that we've ever heard of a, an organization or an initiative, I guess I should say, an initiative like this. And it will come to no surprise to you, Kim, for many reasons, but it's in Missouri and Missouri has it going on. We say it all the time. But so Lisa agreed to join us as a guest on our podcast to talk about what she's got going on in Missouri.
All right. I am ready to go. Let's take a listen. I am thrilled beyond to pieces, thrilled to pieces. I have a new friend with me today, and Laura is going to come in later. I hope she doesn't, because then it's just the me show. And so I am so excited to introduce to you, my listeners, and mine alone, Miss Lisa Pruitt, who is a new friend, as I said. We met Lisa when Laura and I were speaking in Missouri. And Lisa came up, and she's just so personable and so sweet, and was extending that warm Missouri welcome to us and thanking us for our time there with those folks when we were presenting at Missouri. And we got started talking. And I told her, I said, it's so interesting what people do in and around this field. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about what you do and who you are, where you're from, and all that kind of stuff. So let's just start off with an introduction.
Right. Thank you, Kim. And it is really good to see you again. Um, it was nice to meet you, and enjoyed the keynote, and just really had a good time with that. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about what I do. As you said, I am from Columbia, Missouri area. I am a retired school counselor. My career in education started in the classroom. I was a fourth grade teacher, and then I became a school counselor. My first school counseling job was a K-12 school. I served throughout my career in 3 different school districts. I spent 12 years middle school level and finished up 9 years total in 2 different high schools. And after retiring, I just wanted to stay connected to school counseling and to kids and to serving schools. And so I accepted a position with the psychiatry department at the University of Missouri in Columbia as a school counselor consultant for a project called MO-CPAP for schools. And I just cannot wait to tell you all about it.
How did you find out about this position, and how did that happen for you?
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. So in Missouri, our professional organization, our statewide organization, has a weekly newsletter. And in the newsletter, University of Columbia advertised this position. And as soon as I saw it, I just knew it was a perfect fit. I have always had a passion for students who struggled and needed support. May or may not have a diagnosed disability, but needed. I was always very interested in mental health, and now I'm very interested in trauma and how to support those students. And so it just was a perfect fit. I have a passion for this work. And so I applied and got the job. And like I said, 2.5 years later now, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I'm just as excited now as I was the day I started.
Wow, that is wonderful that opened up, and that you were able to step into that. That is so exciting. So, tell us a little bit about it's CPAP, Primary Care Project. Is that?
it is an unusual name. MO-CPAP makes people think of a lot of things. I've had people say they just glanced quickly and thought it said Mo crap. I've had people say they
No,
think of-
look, I work at Mo Crap. There's Mo and Mo Crap coming in on me. That is hilarious. Okay, so tell me about and
it-
CPAP. Isn't that like a machine that helps you
right.
breathe?
And that's the
Okay.
second thing people say, is that the machine that they use to breathe or to stop your
Mhm.
snoring. But no, CPAP stands for Child Psychiatry Access. But this project is about much more than children accessing psychiatry. It's about really professionals, educators accessing resources to support children's overall mental and behavioral health. So if you don't mind, I'll give you just a little bit of history. That I think the context really helps to understand what MO-CPAP for Schools is about.
Would love it. Yes, please.
The CPAP, Child Psychiatry Access, really is a medical model of care that has been around. Well, the first CPAP was established in the state of Massachusetts in 2004. Now, almost every state has a CPAP now. 49 states have one, and Missouri has one. Basically, it was created recognizing that a big barrier exists for behavioral health care due to a shortage of child psychiatrists and also mental health therapists. So we know that children are likely to see primary care doctors or pediatricians when they're experiencing mental or behavioral health challenges. We know that actually only about 20% of youth actually receive care from a specialized mental or behavioral health professional. They generally go to their local DO or MD or nurse practitioner for those services. And those are the professionals that typically prescribe the psychiatric medications. Even though only 1 in 3 pediatricians report sufficient training to feel comfortable diagnosing and treating children with behavioral disorders. So they needed that. Okay, so a little bit of history, a little bit of context around how MO-CPAP Schools came about. Child Psychiatry Access is about children accessing psychiatry, but it's about more than that. It's about professionals accessing resources to support children's overall mental and behavioral health. The original idea is actually a medical model. So Child Psychiatry Access was first established, the first CPAP was established in the state of Massachusetts in 2004 and now exists in 49 states, including Missouri, but it's a medical model. So it is child psychiatry access and consultation to medical professionals, recognizing even back then that a big barrier exists for behavioral health care due to a shortage of child psychiatrists and mental health therapists, and knowing that children are more likely to see their primary care doctor or a pediatrician when they're experiencing mental or behavioral health challenges. CPAP was invented, was designed. We recognize that only 20% of youth with mental health disorders actually received care from a specialized mental or behavioral health professional like a psychiatrist, and that the pediatricians were the ones prescribing most of the psychiatric medications. The DOs and MDs and nurse practitioners were doing the prescribing. And in truth, only 1 in 3 pediatricians report sufficient training to diagnose and treat behavioral and mental health disorders. So it was known that those medical professionals needed consultation, that they needed to be able to reach out to a child psychiatrist and other mental health professionals that are able to guide them appropriately. And so the CPAP was invented, and it provided personalized and unique recommendations, case by case, on demand, at no cost. So it was created and took on a peer learning approach, providing care for the children and adolescents and training opportunities and improving care and also doing referrals. So beyond just being in the doctor's office and get a prescription for medication, there are care coordinators at these CPAPs that can refer out to mental health therapists in the community and follow up with care coordination. Then came along CPAP in schools. You know, they recognized that kids are in schools all day. Schools are the best place really for the treatment, that mental health conditions are very treatable, and that a big difference can be made in the lives of students if they can just get that treatment. School is the place where caring, knowledgeable professionals are, that know the kids and that can identify the problems early, and then intervention can come in early. Appropriate services and supports can be put in place. And COVID especially made that really obvious. So federal funding came in. HRSA, it's called, Health Resources and Service Administration, provided funding, and now 22 states have CPAPs for schools that do varying degrees of consultation and support and training and education, depending on the state. The Missouri project started in 2022. So as I said, I've been working with this group for about 2.5 years now. And the services in Missouri include not only the one-on-one consultation statewide, but also an online resource hub that is packed with resources, mental and behavioral health resources, but they are vetted for the school setting, for educators to use, for teachers and counselors. We primarily in Missouri provide services to school counselors, school nurses, and school administrators, but the resource hub is for all educators. We also provide education and training. And yeah, that's where we've come from, and basically what we're about.
So what I understand now, this is in almost all the states have the CPAP program, the medical program. How many did you say now have that for schools? Is it all 49 states also? Okay, how many did you say?
Best we can tell, it's about 22 states.
Okay.
Have started or have established CPAP programs. Some of them do consultation, some just do education and training, some just work with school-based health centers, some are actually in the schools like we are in Missouri. So they're all doing different things, and we meet together in a national group to share ideas and tips about what's working or what's not working, to try to help each other, to just figure out how to best serve schools. You know, schools all do things a little bit differently, even within the same state, let alone different states. But we do share ideas and try to help each other.
I'm so impressed with Lisa. I mean, you know your stuff, and hearing you talk and about this whole movement initiative, I don't know what you want to call it, gets me so excited because of the opportunities that are out there. And Kim, I can't help but think about when you and I read The Deepest Well and how we were so struck by all of the parties working together, and we were like, yes, this is it. This is when things happen. And Lisa, you guys are doing it. So I'm so impressed and encouraged, and can't wait to dive in more and hear more about it.
It does. It does remind us of that when all the facilities can come together and help. The medical part of this, Lisa, when you say this started in 2004, and because of there weren't enough therapists and psychiatrists at that time, I can't even, because we know that since 2004, those numbers have skyrocketed as far as the need. And I have a friend who is a pediatrician, and he absolutely said toward the last few years after COVID, he was seeing more kids that needed psychiatric help than he would see that needed medical help in a day. So he felt like his roles had reversed. So I know when I'm always texting him things when I find out things that could help him. So it started with the medical model, and then you said it went into the schools.
Mm-hmm.
So as a school counselor, break down what would, if I have this resource in my state, or let's say in your state, what can you do for me as a school counselor?
Okay. So 3 things basically, and really you can see them all on our website when you go to what we call the resource hub. Um, it is resources that you can use as a school professional with students that are vetted for that setting. You know, there's lots of information out there on the internet about mental health and behavioral health, but generally speaking, it is for the medical setting. It is for use with the patient or client. Our goal was to create something for use in the school setting with resources vetted for the school professional, not the mental health expert, but the school professional to use with those students, diagnosed or not. You know, we've got the diagnosed students who qualify for an IEP, possibly under the emotionally disturbed label or the other
Right.
health impaired label.
Yeah.
But we have lots of students who are not diagnosed, but are struggling with mental health or behavioral health. We have
Yes.
lots of students who are, struggling due to trauma. And those students also need and deserve professional help. But, in schools, we're in the business of educating. We are not mental health experts, and we're not licensed to do mental health therapy to diagnose or treat. And so these resources are really for the people like you and me. And I'm a school counselor, just like you are.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have personally a lot of expertise to share, but I have access to people on the bench who are mental health experts, who can you know share things with me or share things with schools that is very practical and easy to use if we just know about it. So I have really just served in as a capacity of kind of the voice of the school at the table. The real experts that provide the help through the consultations and the recommendations and the referrals are licensed mental health professionals. But in the resource hub, as I said, you can go to get practical rubber meets the road resources.
Perfect.
That are vetted for the school setting and that are very usable in the school setting. One of my big frustrations when I went out looking for curriculum or a handout or a pamphlet, it wouldn't download, or it wasn't shareable. It was some kind of format. I'm not a tech expert either. So we work very hard to provide resources that are downloadable, printable, and shareable. So a handout, for instance, a student comes into your office and you do a quick counseling session, or you're working in a small group using a handout on our hub. You can not only print it, I oftentimes would print a handout, laminate it, and then make a copy and use it many times and hand the student that the student would walk out with the lesson basically that they could review and take home and share with parents. But from this hub, we are working to make those resources not only printable, but downloadable and shareable with classroom teachers so that can be supported. Practice can be supported in the classroom. It can be sent to parents. It can be, just practically used in a practical way in multiple settings to support the child and to create that continuum of care. So we're all on the same page with what we're working on and supporting for the student to learn and practice the tools that they need to manage whatever they're struggling with.
So resources, is it mainly, you said that there were 3 things and you mentioned resources.
Yeah, the resources is one of the main areas.
Okay.
It does have the handouts and little micro videos.
Okay.
Like star breathing, for instance. You could print a handout on star breathing and you could watch a little 3 to 5 minute video created by our child psychiatrist on our team, talking about how to do star breathing and why it's important. And we asked him to present those in about 8th grade. Use some medical terminology. We want our student to understand the scientific reason why breathing works. But don't talk over their heads, but help them understand that this is credible, that this is medical, that it scientifically works to help reduce their anxiety. But there are also book recommendations, high quality and award-winning children's books written sometimes by school counselors, like Hygiene is in our library. And Ria and the lockdown drill. We love putting in resources that are created by school professionals. You know, they saw the need, they couldn't find the resource, they created it, and we're dropping it in our hub for other schools to use because that's what we love to do. Share stuff with each other. There are links to curriculum like Sesame Workshop. We are K-12. But there's and more serious things like the Ask It information gathering tool for suicide concern. So we're linking out to the the professional organizations that we're not reinventing the wheel or looking really to medical sources. We're looking to educational sources. Things are different in schools than they are everywhere else. And these resources need to be specific to that setting and for that audience. We have apps, just recommendations, Calm for teens and Calm for kids, Headspace for parents and Headspace for teens. And toolkits are also in the resources for students, like the Suicide Prevention and 988 Guide for Schools, which, by the way, everybody's familiar by now with 988, but the 988 Guide for Schools was the brainchild of one of the people on our team, on the MO-CPAP Schools team. She was part of the 988 Missouri promotion and when that very first got started, and she said, hey, where are schools in this? Because that is a different environment and we need to be specific about how to promote this resource and provide this service to schools. And so there's a 988 group guide for schools, Missouri version, complete with Missouri data in our resource hub.
It sounds like you guys are a model for other, and I think you're shaking your head for our listeners, so that lets me know Laura and I could not be more impressed with the things that Missouri has going on. So I'm not at all surprised that y'all were leading in this effort, and I would love to see every state spend resources and time doing this.
Am I breaking in?
Yes,
I had to take your breath of air right there and break in. Otherwise, you would keep on going.
You
Because
better
I know
know
you're as excited as I am on this. But so first off, I didn't expect to be so honored that they have our resource in there. I mean, that's awesome of you guys to have that. So thank you so much. Secondly, I want to go back to the fact that Lisa, you said you've got these resources in there for not only school counselors, but also things that school counselors can share with teachers and families. And Kim, I know that you know where I'm going with this, but that's one of our hot topics right now. In fact, we even had a state request that's our whole keynote is about teaching the teachers. And so you guys are on the cutting edge yet again of what is so needed for school counselors. That's kind of the heartbeat, that if we're not educating teachers on how to handle the things that are happening in their classrooms, then those things are going to continue to happen. So what has been the response from teachers? Have you heard any feedback from teachers or from counselors about sharing those resources with teachers?
I have learned just how slow the wheels move, getting the word out. We started small. We started with a small portion of the state, a few schools, and grew, adding cohort by cohort until we finally got to be statewide. But just spreading the word, this is brand new what we're doing, and explaining it takes time, and developing it. We often say we are building this plane as we fly it, which is true. So we're figuring out, that's why we are meeting regularly with CPAPs around the nation to figure out what works and what doesn't work and how do we organize it. The Resource Hub has been a really good visual and a good guide. But one of the things we're still struggling with is marketing and advertising, I guess you would say. So one of the reasons I'm so very thankful that, to spend this time with you ladies today and spread the word about what we do, because every time we talk about it, people are very excited to hear about it, but remembering that it's there and knowing exactly what it does for you and figuring out just how it's going to work into the million other things you do a day as an educator is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I
True.
can
Like,
understand that. Yeah, I can
yeah.
understand.
So, you asked me about the other two, and before I go on to the second one, I'm going to say those resources that I mentioned are searchable and filterable by age level, by topic. So we've got topics like if you want something for a student who's been diagnosed with ADHD or depression or anxiety, you can look by topic. You can look by type. If you're just looking for a handout or you're just looking for a book, you can look for a grade span, elementary, middle, or high school, early childhood, or by keyword. Then the second area that we are trying to support schools in, that we are growing, and probably the one we're most focused on currently at the time, is the resources for teachers. So let me tell you a little bit about that, how we're trying to support teachers and reach out. We've got curriculum in that section of the resource hub. One of my favorites and most comprehensive is something called Stress Busters Toolbox, created by a Georgia school counselor of the year, Barbara Trueluck, and she presented at ASCA and graciously shared that resource with us. So we dropped the whole thing into the hub. But there are other just tips in the classroom for trauma-informed language and communication with students, things of that nature, links to websites. Gizmo for Mental Health is an example of a curriculum that includes a PDF, a free hard copy of the guide, access to an animated PowerPoint read along, and then activities like games and puzzles, and a place to go buy the little furry supplemental items, the plushie, I think they call it. But mental health first aid there's a link to that website too, and that is a great way to reach teachers, to get them trained in what might be referred to as mental health CPR for mental health. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but in Missouri, our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is offering it free to all schools this year. And so we've linked to DESE through our website, so that just to, again, share and spread the word, raise awareness, make people available, know that it's available, because that is half the battle. Everybody is just so busy letting them know what's out there and helping. One of the things we don't want to do is cram this resource hub so full that you can't find the really good stuff. We're trying to organize it in such a way and keep it simple, usable, practical, and include the school stuff in it, like the DESE website link to mental health first aid training for schools. But we've also got screeners, assessment forms. There's a threat assessment screener, IHPs or something that school nurses use. Behavior and safety plan templates. I know as a former special education teacher, you can appreciate the behavior plans. It can be written for any student. They don't have to have an IEP, but
exactly.
Counselor, I was not as well educated on how to write those plans or how to set them up. And so we're trying to provide a little bit of guidance in the hub around things like that, and some manuals. We created our MO-CPAP team, the medical side and the school side together, created a primary care and schools collaborative guide that includes information to try and support the collaboration between the primary care, the medical, and the school, including a HIPAA FERPA compliant release of information form. That is a roadblock many times.
Absolutely.
The different regulations, we come from two different worlds. The medical, the mental health therapy and the licensed behavioral health clinicians, and the psychiatrists and psychologists, they speak a different language. They are trained a different way. We are both sides are in the helping profession, and we serve kids, but we speak a different language. Sometimes we are at odds with one another, and a lot of that is due to the fact that in the medical setting, the approach is one at a time, and they help the masses, but they do it one at a time. And in schools, our focus is the masses, And we are trained to use our time parsimoniously to help the greatest number of students, to deliver our services to the greatest number. So, we start with school-wide programs, and then grade level initiatives, and then classroom and small group, and the individual takes precedence in a crisis situation. But we are really, as educators, trained to with a completely different perspective. So that collaborative guide is very interesting, and we are very proud of that. It's also, of course, in our hub. And then professional development opportunities is our real focus right now. We are developing, in the process of developing more of those little micro videos and trauma training. We have an amazing speaker in the state of Missouri, Mr. Josh Varner, who has partnered with us to deliver his Be Their Hero keynote on trauma training to 5 schools now. We're getting ready to deliver that to a 6th school. And in the process, we found a school that our school nurse on our bench, he had spoken at their school a time or two, and they had developed a study guide to go along with the book that he's written, which is also entitled Be Their Hero. And so we dropped that into the hub, and we are getting ready to develop some lunch and learn webinars. That is commonly done in the medical world. We are seeing the value of it in the school world, because it is just so difficult, as we know, sometimes to be at a certain place at a certain time. So if you can just grab that pre-recorded, if you can attend it or then watch it recorded, we hope to be able to provide lunch and learn webinars, or I don't know that that's what we'll call it, but something like that. We have so far, our team has created coping with grief and conversations for suicide safer schools, early childhood screeners, and we have plans to develop a lot more of those, depending on the need and the interest that schools have for that type of training.
So I'm curious, what issues are you guys seeing when you go into the schools?
Mainly, that's where the consultations come in, which is the 3rd area of service that we provide. When you go to our resource hub, you see the button at the top, resources for students, the one resources for teachers, and then there's one consultations. Schools reach out to us and submit a consultation, and it could be something very, very simple. We've had consultations from teachers, for example, on state testing is getting ready to start. Can you share some test taking, anxiety reduction strategies that I can pass along to my students? To, we've got a student who is suicidal and has been for some time, and we think he needs to be reevaluated, or his medication needs to be changed, those psychiatric questions, but those also just, we are here to help, and we welcome any and all consultations. Consultation sounds like a big word, and psychiatry access, I'm afraid, sometimes might sound intimidating, but basically we're just about, helping kids, putting our heads together, being that extra person on your problem solving team, to maybe throw out another idea, or to support what you're recommending to the parents, that maybe the parents are struggling to get done and you need someone to back you up on that, or just to say you're doing all that you can do. We really can't think of anything else. So in the consultations, schools reach out. We typically call them back for more information. And then we provide recommendations. And most of those are around anxiety and depression, by far, really.
I bet. Yeah.
There's just a lot of, our kids are suffering. They are really struggling, and therapists are so few and far between. Telehealth therapy is growing and seems to work pretty well at the high school level and the middle school level. It's not probably as conducive to the little ones. But it's really hard out there right now.
I think we're definitely in a crisis, and I think this is an answer, a practical answer, not completely, but it definitely is in the step in the right directions, because it is very scary as a school counselor to have a caseload, and so many of those caseloads are having mental health issues. We're not therapists, or if we are, we're not acting in that capacity. And does CPAP help the school, help the families find a therapist or a psychiatrist, a person
The,
that they can be sent to?
the medical CPAPs do. As a school CPAP, we do not do direct services. We do not collect any identifying information. That is one of the restrictions. So we are providing support to the educational professionals who are working with the students. We are not providing direct support to the students. So we don't get, we are not collecting names, phone numbers, that kind of information. Through the primary care, through the MO-CPAP medical side, parents are there with their child. And so they can give their phone number, and the primary care physician can contact the MO-CPAP psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, who then has care coordination as one of the services that they provide. He can set that up. What we can do is things like, as I said, when the consultation comes in, I, along with a school nurse on our bench and a behavioral interventionist, we're the three people that are the front line workers with the schools. And then we have people that we can consult with, like a psychiatric nurse practitioner or social workers, someone of that nature. But we do the research. So we'll get online and look in that local area, make phone calls, spend the time doing that kind of work. Just even making them aware of websites like Psychology Today. That may or may not be something you're familiar with. I was not familiar as a school counselor. One of the first things I learned about when I came on with this team is this website where you can find it according to your zip code, therapists, psychiatrists, what type of therapy. You can filter by insurance. You can look for support groups and treatment centers, and the filters are incredible. You can, especially in more urban areas, you can really get specific about the type of support that you're looking for and find it that way. And that was just a website that I didn't know anything about.
And that's a game
Well,
changer.
that's a rubber meets the road.
That's a
Yeah.
rubber meets the road. So I promised you 30 minutes. We are going in an hour because we can't stop asking you questions. But
And I do have one more.
She won't stop. I'm sorry, Lisa. She'll go on and on. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering if a counselor is listening in, like, let's say Michigan, and they're thinking this sounds wonderful, and my two options are either I move to Missouri, or is there another option? Are some of these resources available to them, to anybody?
The resource hub is available to anybody.
Okay.
That's a .org, the mostcpapschools.org. We've got people, amazes me, from around the world looking at it sometimes. Many of the resources are specific to Missouri or created by Missouri, people at the University of Missouri or on our team. But as I said, we've got resources from counselors around, created by counselors from other states, and Psychology Today, is a nationwide. That's a search engine for therapists and psychiatrists and support groups nationwide, according to your zip code. But we also have some, Missouri Division of Developmental Disabilities, Missouri Child Abuse Neglect Hotline. That's going to be the hotline number that you find when you go to the MO-CPAP resource. But all of those, kids are kids and curriculum is curriculum. Almost anything you see in the resources for students and resources for teachers section is going to be applicable anywhere in the United States. The consultation piece is just for Missouri educators.
Well, thank you, Missouri, is all I've got to say. I'm very excited, even this Psychology Today that you've offered today, plus having this resource open for everyone. How does the state know if they're one of the 22 that have the school CPAP?
It is new enough that is really hard to determine. I actually reached out to the national organization that's meeting with us and trying to help us share our ideas to ask them how many. So there's not a website yet where you can go and look that up. There is a website for the CPAP, for the medical model. It's been around a lot longer, and it is more established and more organized. But the schools, I think, are getting there. You know, I saw a CDC August the 6th, I think it was a publication, I think it was published August the 6th, said CDC data show improvements in youth mental health, but need for safer and more supportive schools. And I was like, ouch. You know, we've got to do better. We have to. And I loved what I watched one of your podcasts where you had Dr. Perlman on, and what he said about educators are basically practicing without a license. We are not that we're doing anything wrong. We're just doing what has to be done. We are just doing our very best to help these kids. Fumbling sometimes, but loving them through their challenges and their struggles to the best of our ability. So just being with a group of people who are not only passionate like I am about appropriately and effectively supporting these kids struggling with mental and behavioral health issues, but they are trained and licensed to do so. And they are sitting at the table with me, with us, sharing this stuff, I think is just pure gold. I'm just so grateful and honored to be a part of this group doing this work. Want to do the best I possibly can to make this help those students that my heart has ached for my entire career. And you know, we were talking earlier about how counselors juggle so many things, especially in a K-12 school. I can't get over the thought of you having 1,000 students. I had 200, and I felt like I was not doing a very good job. We're a what is it? Jack of all trades and master of none is what I always felt like. When I evaluated my program, I would come up with a letter grade of a C. And I'm not a C student, but I knew I was doing the best I could. I just couldn't fully implement my program the way it needed to be implemented because I was juggling so many things and doing so many things, but I didn't feel like I was doing them as well as I wanted to, especially in the area of mental and behavioral health. So, you know, we welcome any and all suggestions, ideas, resources. You can contact us. You can send a consultation just with a recommendation. Hey, you need to have this in the hub, because that's what happens with our consultations. Schools call and ask a question, and we realize what we need to put in the hub. We put things in the hub and we share it in our consultations. And it just one feeds the other.
This is exciting, and I'm so glad sounds like you've been there at the with the school part since the start of that, and we're excited to watch it grow. And we were so excited to meet you. We said it was the God thing that we ran into you and started a conversation with you. And Laura and I said, we've got to share this resource because, you know, you're advocating for these kids, you're advocating for school counselors and educators. We've got to get this out. These ideas and these thoughts, and somebody's going to be helped today because of what you shared, Lisa.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time and being patient with Laura, especially. God love her. But thank you again. And I can't wait to see you again in person.
Me too.
A big hug for this.
Me
Laura,
too.
any goodbyes?
Well, I just hate to see it end because this has been so wonderful. And I feel like Lisa and I have been through a lot over the past couple of days. So, but it's not goodbye forever because we're connected now. So I just appreciate you being on here and sharing this wonderful resource. And it was just so great to spend a little bit of time with you.
I really enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for having me today.
Keep up the good work, Lisa.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
I love hearing about what other people have going on in other.
I know, and the ideas you can get.
Yeah. So I hope that as you were listening to that, I hope that you started thinking about, hey, I need to contact somebody in my state, or this is something that would help me. And maybe you can get something like this going where you are.
Or maybe it's going where you are and you're just not aware of it.
True.
I mean, there's just,
True. So I've got a little
good
gift for you. We have our very dear friend, Mallory Jacobs, doing her In the Mix with Mal Pal during this episode. And she has gone to see the movie Wicked, and she is going to share with us some of her thoughts about Wicked, and how it relates to school counseling. So, you and I went to go see Wicked,
We did on
and
Broadway in New York
oh my
City and
goodness,
also
there was
in
nothing like
Orlando.
when we went
No,
to go see it. We were like what, 4 rows back. Ugh,
it was crazy. It was
it was
crazy. It was so
wonderful.
much fun. And
And then we
then
went
we
to go,
saw the movie at Disney,
yeah,
which was really special because you're at Disney World in
yeah,
that great theater that has the reclining heated put your feet up and they bring you food. You just say, "Hey, bring me some popcorn." They'll run it down to you.
yeah.
It was wonderful. It was
It
a
was great.
dream.
Yeah. And it was just great to be able to share that with you. So, so Malpal is going to talk about that. And then, um, so we'll end with Malpal, but like always, you can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. You can join us for our upcoming Behavior Detour Conference. We would love to have you. We have over 20 speakers, 20 hours of content at our virtual on demand Behavior Detour Conference. Tickets are $65. And go ahead and get yours now. Watch it anytime between February 7th and December 31st. We've got great, Malpal is going to be speaking. Malpal
All
and
right.
Matthew McLean will be speaking. But we have lots of great speakers that are sharing just different strategies and solutions and stories that relate to behavior. So if you've ever scratched your head and thought, what in the world? What am I going to do with all these behaviors? Then join us for our Behavior Detour Conference. Second time we're doing
And
this.
yeah, and share it with your this is great if teachers are looking for resources. This is it's all across the educational spectrum from administrators to superintendents to coordinators to teachers to just some of the best behavior people and brain people in the nation. So um if 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 they're coming to you wanting answers or help, this is going to be money well spent because this is some of the people that know what they're talking about. So a lot of different topics that pertain to behavior, a lot of stuff in the counseling realm, and a lot of stuff just in education and dealing with people and students in general. So we're excited to have our second annual Behavior Detour Conference.
Yes, we are. So we will post a link and you can sign up. All right. Enjoy In the Mix with Malpal.
Hey everybody, welcome back to In the Mix with Malpal. Hey, I'm Malpal. My name is Mallory Jacobs, and I'm an elementary school counselor. And I was born and raised in Kansas, and I currently work in Topeka, Kansas, where I'm an elementary school counselor at Whitson Elementary. I'm also a lead elementary counselor for the district. I also work for the state of Kansas, helping out counselors all over the state and doing some consulting work. And I'm so happy to share this space with all of you today. I am so excited because today's topic is a movie about Kansas. Wizard of Oz is such an amazing movie, and you might have heard about its prequel that came out just about a month ago, Wicked. There are so many amazing school counseling lessons that we can use in our classrooms, in our offices, with our groups, with our individuals, our everyday situations. And I'm here to talk a little bit about those today. If you have not seen The Wizard of Oz or Wicked, man, I really challenge you to go and see those. It is so great. Wicked is about 3 hours long, so grab some pals, grab some snacks, and head to your nearest movie theater. It is such a great movie. I was so happy I was able to see it with some friends and my mom, and we came out of the theater singing, even though we really can't sing. It was such a great film. And it's so cool because we are in Kansas. It is such a cool movie. So one of the lessons that is really cool that I want to talk to you about today is making sure that it's okay to be different. The Green Witch in the movie, her name is Elphaba. And Elphaba was born green. While everybody else is different skin tones, she came out looking green. And she was actually punished for that, even though it wasn't her fault. But man, oh man, did she use it to her advantage, because being green called a lot of attention to her. Maybe not the most positive, but she really used her power of being different for good. And she learned lots of lessons along the way. So you can really talk to your kiddos and your staff about being different. It's okay to be different. That's what sets us apart from everybody else. Because at the end of the day, there's only one me, there's only one you. And how cool is that? Such a great lesson in that one as well. Another great lesson that the movie talks about is empathy, showing empathy. Elphaba has a sister that's in a wheelchair, and everybody's worried about her, including her father. And he actually makes Elphaba go to college with her and make sure that she's okay. So really understanding empathy and understanding different people's perspectives, and then in the end, how empathy really pushed through. That would be great in your lessons as well. Another great lesson that was learned is helping. Glinda, the good witch, the one that loves pink, she actually helps Elphaba along the way, and then Elphaba helps Glinda. And they also help other characters in the movie as well. But helping, I mean, I know we're school counselors, we help all the time. But there's some people out there that takes a little bit more to get them to help. This is such a great lesson that you can pull out of as well from that movie. Another really cool one that I think I'm going to use in January is the power of meaningful connections. It is so important. And, speaking of differences, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Elphaba and Glinda have an unexpected friendship. They are rooming together, and neither of them are really happy about that. But they both of them really grow into better versions of themselves because they were pushed into that and going out of their comfort zone. They bond by welcoming each other with a warm embrace, and the connection really blossoms from there. And there's also a really fun quote that says, "Pink goes well with green." And that is really cool in the story, too. Another great lesson that you can use is having to overcome your differences and know that not everybody's going to see the same perspective. Not everything is going to see the same thing, and that's okay. And how you can really have great communication and great conversations when you don't come from the same background, when you're there to learn and meet other people. So, meaning to be different and those connections, so, so, so important. Another great lesson that you can use is standing up for what you believe in. Sometimes that's really hard. Sometimes it's kind of unwelcoming. But if you stay true to what you believe in the end, you really do win. And it reminds us that the right thing sometimes really requires a lot of bravery and courage, and it can really lead to meaningful change. And then, of course, the last one, define gravity. Everybody needs and has a chance to fly. The end of the story, still gives me goosebumps. When Elphaba sings Defying Gravity, man, she hits those high notes and she is flying. And nobody can believe it. It is so, so, so cool. She rose above the limitations. She rose above the stereotypes. She rose above her differences, and she, in the end, is flying. She offers other people to go with her, but I'm going to let you see what happens in the end. But man, oh man, really overcome your fears and chase those dreams. And that's what those ladies do in that movie. And it is just such a powerful film. And it makes you really think about things. It makes you think, everybody really does deserve the chance to fly. And if anything, you can leave the theater and turn on your iTunes, turn on your Spotify, and listen to the amazing music. Ooh, it still gives me goosebumps. So those are some amazing lessons that you can take back to your classrooms, to your offices, just by watching the movie Wicked. It's okay to be different, having empathy, being helpful, standing up for what you believe in, meaningful connections, and everybody deserves the chance to fly. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. And always, we really appreciate your support. Everybody get out there and fly. Have a great one and keep doing amazing things.